Hello,
Hi,
how are you?
just fine. How are you?
Okay,
Sorry about the confusion.
no worries.
Okay, so it's like a free form thing. I'm just going to ask a bunch of questions. You can answer as long as you want to. If you want to go off on a rant, that's cool. I'll transcribe
Okay,
it as close to the original as I can, and the audio will appear after the print issue next month.
okay, cool.
So let's start here. What is your name and where are you?
My name is Ron Placone. I am in Los Angeles, California. That so far is still a place in the United States.
Do you have doubts about that?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, honestly, joking aside, yeah, I think the United States is going to keep going for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
What it'll look like, that I'm not sure. I mean, I think there's a couple best case, worst case scenarios out there. And the best case isn't particularly great. But the worst case is even worse. So yeah, that's pretty much my take on it.
What issues concern you the most in the short term?
Oh man, that's a pretty loaded one. Well, I mean, in the immediate future, the fact that we are going through a literal fascist coup is a pretty big one. Um, our institutions, which are already not great, but those not great institutions are being gutted and replaced with something even worse. We have a eugenicist in charge of health, which should terrorize everybody should just wake up and say that out loud every morning, and it should repulse them beyond comprehension. But a lot of people don't, or they downplay it, or they hyperfixate on one soundbite, and that allows them to sugarcoat what's really happening. So I guess that's the big one in the immediate. Like there's a literal fascist takeover happening. Um, I don't see how anyone isn't aware of that. Well, I do see how people aren't aware of it, but it's so apparent if you've like just paid attention to any history at all. Like that's what's happening here.
Well, you
It's
can't
not an
underestimate.
embellishment.
Sorry. Well, you
No, no,
can't
no. Go ahead.
underestimate people's belief that if something they think about feels bad and they don't think about it, that does something. If that makes sense.
Totally. No, that totally makes sense. And also that there's still a whole I think there's still a lot of, well, that wouldn't happen here.
Hmm.
And the reality is, no, it could happen anywhere at any time. And it's happening here now. I think if we really want to just make it as simple as possible, am I allowed to curse here?
Oh yeah, free reign.
Okay, I figured I probably could, but I just wanted to make absolute sure.
Sure.
When we decided to bring all the Nazis back to the United States because we liked some of the research they were doing,
Hmm.
um, that was fuck around, and now is find out.
Correct.
It's not the only find out. I mean, years and years of neoliberalism was also the find out, but this is like the most barbaric find out. We're
Well, the
here.
neoliberal
Uh,
period was like the unraveling, and then this
yeah,
is like the end game.
totally. I mean, and neoliberalism just leads to straight up fascism 100% of the time. Because it's
Correct.
just like, let it all happen, deregulate it all, let's have no protections for people. And, eventually a demagogue's going to rise because people are going to look for things to blame. And there's always going to be some evil propagandist out there who's going to convince them that some marginalized group of people is the reason for their problems. And we're seeing it unravel now. It's like the whole first they came after is happening. First they came after for the transgender people, then they came after the disabled people, then they came after autistic people, then they came after the dissidents, then they came after the college protesters. It's not all like it's not one group at a time. There's a lot of things simultaneously, but like they're definitely going after different groups now, and it's going to just keep expanding.
Yeah, I thought for a while that Mr. Mann's use of immigrants as demons was kind of like darkly clever because an immigrant can't appeal to the law. So
Hmm.
I think that's why he centered them as like the main demon because he can just get rid of them, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're always a very easy target for, the powerful and the elite. And I think it's totally for the reason you just mentioned. And I think another reason for that is the United States. And granted, I haven't been everywhere. Not even, I mean, there's a lot of countries in the world. And I've only been to so many of them. But I will say the United States is by far the most nationalistic place I've ever been to.
Mm.
And if there is a more nationalistic place, I have no desire to ever go there, wherever it is. So I think that's a big part of it too. I mean, we are a hyper nationalistic country.
Yeah, I agree. Because he obviously he's going for trans people and queer people and disabled people as well. But the sort of short term limiting factor on that is that technically we have laws against him doing that.
Right,
But
right,
like,
right. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so he seems to be like unraveling the plan layer by layer, like starting from like the least protected, and then
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, no, totally. The thing too, though, is what we're really learning right now is that the law doesn't matter when nobody's there to enforce it or nobody's willing to enforce it.
which has
Because
always
that's
been true.
happening
Which
totally.
has always been true.
But I
But
feel like now more than ever, it's just like even during the new American century, and well, which basically all of this is just an extension of the new American century. Like this is what the Bush administration started, years ago. But even then, that there were like some barriers up where they weren't able to do quite as much as they probably would have liked to. I mean, they still freaking destroyed the country and destroyed, parts of the world completely. But I think there was more that they really would have liked to have done that they just weren't able to do because there was just some guardrails in place. Now I feel like there's even less.
well, America's always
Um,
been able to do awful shit overseas because
yes,
again they're not protected by our laws. But like
right.
it's been harder to target people here for a while. But now
Yeah.
we've got this guy who is really effectively lawless. He doesn't care about the law
Yep.
at all. And he's willing to take the risk of plunging the country into chaos um, for whatever private reason he has. Um, and I think that is unique to him.
I think so too. It's unique to him and the people he's surrounded himself with. I mean, I
Yeah,
think at the end of the day, these are just oligarchs who want an even bigger piece of the pie than they already have,
right.
and they're willing to just hollow out this country and just make it like an empty husk for them to play in, and they really truly don't care. And I think in the case of someone like an Elon Musk, I think he really looks up to old granddaddy, even though
Mm-hmm.
he didn't get to spend a ton of time with him. But nonetheless, I think that he was very much influenced by his Nazi grandfather.
True.
And at the end of the day, that's what he is.
And he's from
So
apartheid South Africa. It's like
totally,
the most
totally.
racist
Yeah.
country, you know.
Absolutely. And he celebrates all that stuff. He
Oh yeah.
celebrates all that stuff. And so, that's what's taking place here. I mean, this is a straight up fascistic takeover. I heard this on a podcast I was listening to today, actually, where even more so than Nazi Germany, I think our contemporary society can learn even more, and there's more parallels um, by the fascism rise in Italy.
I agree.
Even more so because it's like when you look at how Mussolini did what he did, and you look at the way the culture was shortly after World War One, and then why, Mussolini got angered by people becoming more progressive. So then he took this sharp right turn, and he was just a media mogul, which basically
Hmm.
well, maybe not every, but a lot of the terrible leaders in Italy, they were all just media moguls. I mean, that was what Berlusconi was, and I don't think Maloney specifically is that, but I think a lot of people in her party are.
Right.
So it's like,
Well,
there's
and
all those
Trump,
parallels. Well, yeah, Trump,
he's an
totally.
entertainment figure.
And then Bush had, I mean, Bush was faxing talking points to Fox News. So it's like they all have that in common. And so you see how when you look at the way fascism really rose in Italy, I think that's more of a parallel to what we're going through right now. Um,
Yeah, I would
and
agree. It's a very similar coalition because he kind of co-ops. He's got all the rich people. And he kind of has this weird traditional Catholic bent of people,
yeah,
and then he's even got this like working class, but but fake consciousness side, like the Steve Bannon side of his, where
yeah,
he's like, well, we'll get rid of all your immigrant competitors if you'll buy into this. You know,
yeah. Yeah, and
it's very
people who think
similar.
that like the whole right wing populism, quote unquote, thing, which is an oxymoron. If you've read anything about populism, that's an oxymoron. Like right wing populism. That's like saying wet fire. It's not a thing. But it's kind of been bastardized and accepted into our zeitgeist, and I think that's pretty dangerous because it's allowing working class people to buy into these terrible terrible ideas thinking it will benefit them.
Well, sure,
um
that's. I mean, it's definitely a very dark contract that's being offered. They're well, basically Trump is saying, "How I'll benefit you is I'll take 10 million people and send them out of the country."
yeah.
Like, it's definitely a devil's deal, but it's like there is that portion of supporters.
uh, oh wow, yep, yeah, this is sorry, I didn't mean to derail the interview this early
No,
on.
you started it, and I just went with it. Okay, so
But
let's unravel a little bit. Um, so you're a comedian.
yeah, yeah, I know based on the interview so far you might be thinking, is he though? But yeah, totally. Totally. I
um,
do I do attach punchlines to these thoughts. Not always in an interview, but on in the appropriate forum I attach punchlines to these thoughts. And yeah, so yeah, I do comedy and what have you.
does it primarily focus on like social issues?
Well, these days, I would say, yeah. I mean, I don't limit myself. I mean, I talk about, all kinds of stuff. I mean, if you're going to see me do an hour of comedy, you're not just going to hear an hour of nothing but, like political thoughts and social thoughts and stuff
Right.
like that. Because there's more to my life than that. You're also going to hear about um, food and my cat and relationships and all that kind of stuff because I like to just really tell a big story, and there's more to my life than like dwelling on politics 24/7, because if there wasn't I would lose my fucking mind. So you're going to get a little bit of everything. It's not going to be exclusively 45 minutes of editorializing or anything like that, but these days there's a lot of that because it's on my mind.
True.
I don't know how I think it's on everyone's mind, or most people at least. So yeah. And then of course I do other things. One thing in particular that I want to talk about today, and that's my movie And that's a movie that really kind of satirizes the Wall Street machine, which I think is very, very timely right now because at the end of the day, the big reason we're in the mess we're in is because of the way the Wall Street system functions. And
Sure.
when you really kind of take a peek under the hood, which I think most people don't really know just the basics of this is what Wall Street actually is. And I think if more people kind of understood that, they would realize, wow, this is a terrible way to build a society. Like, this is the most just inefficient way to conduct a world that really is helpful to nobody except for a few really rich people. And it's just a completely terrible way to have a society. And then you realize, like, yeah, this is why we don't have all these other things that other industrialized countries have. The reason we don't have them is because of all these financial interests. Not that Wall Street isn't a plague on the entire world, it is, but other places just don't have their foot on the accelerator quite as much. And just that, like, foot a little less on the accelerator is the difference between whether or not you have universal health care, or whether or not you have tuition free college, or whether or not you have living wages. So it's really remarkable how just how powerful that stranglehold really is, where even if you just have the foot on the gas of capitalism is just eased a little bit. And that's the difference between the United States and, like, say, a Nordic country or something like that.
For sure. It's not a great idea to direct all your investment based on gambling, like for your
Yeah, I
country.
mean, it's a giant casino, and at the end of the day, too, like there's no value being created here. Like it's all just people betting on whether or not something will fail. People placing money on top of money. These are, like, expected assets. So technically, there's like a quadrillion there, but it's not actually tangible in most cases. So these people are just selling these things that might not be valuable at all. So somebody might get rich, someone might lose everything. And then they're allowed to manipulate the market to try to get the result they want. I mean, it's actually freaking nuts when you think about it. And philosophers warned against doing anything like this for centuries. Like if you go back and you read, like, Proudhon and Marx and even, like, I mean, tons of other people too. Like, they always warned against ever doing something where you're just solely relying on capital, in other words, money, to build more capital, in other words, money. Like just placing capital on top of capital without any, real value. Because in the end of the day, money is just something that we created, that we decided had value, and that's about it. Like at the end of the day, it really is just a tool that could be used in a constructive way, but we've not done that. And so ever doing something like Wall Street is just a terrible, terrible idea in any society. But we've built an entire world around it. And it's what an interesting time in human history, to put it gently. So
Yeah, I said that if the right ever fully goes against Trump, it will exclusively be because the tariffs lose the money. That's like,
yeah, yeah, and I think some of them are starting to a little bit. I mean, I think some of them are realizing, like, even a lot of these higher ups are realizing that this kind of chaos is not good for business.
right,
I mean, they had the initial chaos was probably nice because they all got to buy low, but now it's like, dude, if like the price of goods goes up, 87% or whatever they're, like,
right.
forecasting is possible, that's not gonna be good for even the Jeff Bezos of the world.
No.
So, like, yeah, they're gonna start turning on him. And at the end of the day, I think that he really just wants to be liked. I mean, I
Mm.
think that is a big factor. He wants to be liked. I think Elon Musk, I think I wish there was somebody out there who had the patience and just supreme acting ability to go out there and just be Elon's friend. You don't have to really be his friend. Just pretend you're his friend and just give him something to do. Give him a friend to spend time with and to bounce thoughts off of. I really think that Good Samaritan could save our frickin' world. I'd do it if I had access to the guy. I really would. I would take that. I would take on that burden of pretending to be Elon Musk's friends. And I would have to pretend. It wouldn't be sincere, um, because I refuse to be friends with Nazis. But I would say I will play this role and pretend to be this guy's friend to distract him from destroying the fucking world. I will do that. Like, but I don't think I'll ever get the opportunity. But I hope someone out there does, and carries that mantle for the rest of us. Because I think he would just be distracted by something else, and then he would stop focusing on destroying all of our institutions, which again aren't great. But if you look at how a revolution works, you're not always guaranteed to replace things with something better. And if you
Mhm.
replace things with something worse, well, then you're that much worse off. You're not better off. There's people who I think forget that part, or they just don't understand it. And they thought that Reagan was going to burn it all down. Well, how did that work out for you? How did that work out in the 80s, where you were trying to be contrarian, saying Reagan was going to be a good thing? How did that work out for the world? It didn't work out great. It's not going to work out great this time either.
Well, I hate to give you a counsel of despair on Elon, but I think he's a narcissist and maybe a psychopath. So I don't think he could have a friend, really.
Oh, of course he couldn't.
But
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this person's going to really have to be persuasive, a fantastic actor,
um,
and they're going to have to they're really going to have to like play the role.
then as
This
far
is all
as
on the person, not Elon. Because the other thing I will say about him, I don't think he's particularly bright. I don't think any of them are. I don't think Donald Trump's particularly bright. I don't think Elon's particularly bright. So I think they can be persuaded. I really don't think somebody who I think is incredibly underwhelming. I don't think RFK is a very
oh
intelligent
no,
guy. I think he just, I mean, there was a really interesting, well, not interesting, but I enjoyed it. Interview between Bill Maher and Bill Burr, where Bill Burr just sort of like handed him his fucking heart. It was beautiful. He just skewered Bill Maher, and the one quote that he had that I thought was just really cool was he just goes, Bill Burr said this to Bill Maher, Bill, you're not smart. You just know about some obscure shit. Where it's like, yeah, you're not a bright guy. You just have time. And so you look up just obscure shit. That is like, if you had to sum up RFK in one sentence, that I think that's a pretty good summary. You're not a bright guy. You just have plenty of time and plenty of people who want your money and your attention, so you have a lot of time to read a study, not understand it, and then regurgitate it. Or, read all these things that were disavowed by the entire medical community for whatever reason, and you're into it because somebody's influencing you, and then you just regurgitate it uncritically. He's not a bright guy.
no, he's definitely not a bright
Because
guy.
you have to be a pretty not bright person to fall for eugenics in any way. You have to, one, not understand what eugenics actually is, two, know nothing about the history around eugenics, to think that it has any merit whatsoever. And he's not bright enough to pick up on that. And, honestly, I think more people would be onto that. Except whenever he talks, he sounds like he's trying to give a driveway a blowjob. So you understand like every third or fourth word. So I
Well,
think a
he's a
lot of people,
Kennedy.
they
He's a Kennedy, and he survived. Therefore, he's allowed to get government office for some reason. That's
totally,
like
and
that is why he's there. His last
I
name
mean,
is Kennedy.
his last name is Kennedy. His entire family, he wanted his 15 minutes forever. He never got it.
Right.
So this is his way to freaking
This
get
is
it.
his
And
way to
now
get in.
he's enjoying it. And it's so funny, like the people who make it out like he's some kind of outsider or whatever. Dude,
No,
he is a
it's insane.
Kennedy.
He's a
He is a
Kennedy.
Kennedy. He's the insider of an insider of an insider. And it's so remarkable that the I mean, you just look at how this guy has managed to maintain his own health in his own lifetime. Like, I mean, this guy's a Kennedy. He comes from more wealth than you and I could ever imagine in
Oh yeah.
multiple lifetimes. He has
Oh yeah.
every advantage in the frickin' world. He
Yes.
managed to give himself mercury poisoning. He claimed it was from eating tuna fish.
And
Do you know how
brainwave.
much tuna fish you would have to eat? You'd have to like streamline it into your veins, which he wasn't doing with tuna fish. He was doing that with heroin. Managed to
Yeah.
get himself a brain worm. Yeah, I mean,
By eating
it's
raw bear.
yeah, yeah, and then he drives around with a whale. He drives. I mean, this guy's out of his freaking mind,
Well, it's funny.
and
I'm
it's
from
amazing.
Asheville, North Carolina. If he wasn't a Kennedy, he would just be a guy with no shoes in Asheville. Like, do you know Asheville?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, if he wasn't a
Shout out
Kennedy,
to
he would just be
Asheville,
a guy
man.
with no shoes.
I hope things are going okay out there. I know
Well, yeah, they're all
they've
right.
been going through some stuff. No,
My
it's been
nephew's
rough.
out there.
Is he okay? Is everything
Yeah,
like?
he
Is he all right?
survived. They just reconnected the
Okay.
highway to Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah. No, I know. I have family out by Greenville, and they're pretty okay there. But I know they did not get hit quite as hard as Asheville. I know Asheville got hit really hard, and there's parts that are still really suffering. It's wild. I mean, it's absolutely wild. But
Well, you're from
yeah.
California, so you know
I'm
what I'm
not
getting
from
at.
there, but I live there.
Where are you
Yeah.
from?
I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I lived in well, I went to college at IU, Indiana University, and then I lived in Seattle for a little bit, and I lived in Nashville, Tennessee for a little bit. And I was a road comic for like 5 years. So I like just traveled around the country, 45 weeks a year. And then I've been here in LA since about 2016. I think I've been in LA like as long as I've known you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've not been in LA forever, and I'm not from here originally. I like it as much as you can, if that makes sense. I mean, there's things about LA that I really do love. That just, I mean, the weather can't be beat for one. And, it's a city of the world. So it's like anything you could imagine, it's here. And, a lot of the music that I really like and celebrate and have for my entire life, like that's all here. A lot of it is here. I mean, like all the punk rock I grew up with, so much of it is Southern California. So that part's really freaking cool. And just the amount of creatives that are here is really freaking cool. um but it also has all the kind of like all the kind of other things that you don't like as much, like just all the Hollywood BS and stuff like that, and like a lot of, I mean, you really see just the brutal effects of wealth disparity and police brutality and just capitalism in general, because there's just so many freaking people here. Like, it's nuts.
Gotcha. Um, Tell me about some of your previous work, like before the movie, and then I'll get back to the movie for the end. Like, what?
So
Go ahead.
before the movie, I was primarily doing like writing, podcasting, and then comedy. Like I said, I was a road comic until about 2016. Then I moved to LA, and I primarily did stuff in like the kind of podcasting type space. Wrote for a few shows. Now I contribute to a YouTube network called Status Coup. And they're kind of like a lefty news oriented network, and I do some hosting for them, and I produce some stuff for them. So I still am involved in that world a little bit. I used to be involved a lot more, but I kind of stepped away from all of it. And I started getting into production. So, Left at Wall is my first movie. Prior to Left at Wall, I made a webisode pilot called Loner. And I also made a vertical series, which is just a fancy way of saying you did it vertically on your phone and had a story. I did a vertical series called Frank Azuri. So I kind of had two very web based things, to sort
What
of
was Frank
like.
Azuri about?
Frank Azuri is about a guy. The whole thing is a metaphor for climate change, but it's about a guy who he makes meloncello and he sells it. Um, and he is just a well-intentioned, really genuinely sweet guy who just, doesn't quite understand some of the intricacies of the world. And his friend Drew, kind of helps him through it and kind of protects him. And we tell stories about labor history via Frank Azuri, and we tell stories about the partisans and lefty activism in soccer. We've had episodes about Joe Hill. We've had episodes just straight up about climate change. Yeah, and in every episode, Frank just sort of misses something. Like I'll get this is just a goofy example that comes to my mind first. We did an episode about the canneries in the San Pedro neighborhood, which is where I live in Los Angeles, and and near the canneries is where a lot of the Japanese neighborhoods were taken to internment camps around World War II. And Frank thinks that he thinks that it wasn't an internment camp, it was an internship camp. So he thinks that everybody was just transported to this place where they all got internships. And then Drew has to explain to him what it really was. It's like obviously it's a comedy, and we talk about history, but we do it through this lens of this guy who gets 90% of it right, but then he gets 10% really, really wrong, and his partner has to help him. So it's a fun series. I mean, we did one season and then we got kind of busy with other things. I don't know if we'll do another one, but yeah, that's Frank Azuri. It's actually you can find the entire season on Status Quo. So if you just go to Status Quo News on YouTube, you can find the entire season of Frank Azuri, and then we do like a debrief after each episode where we kind of talk about the episode and the history behind it and what made us write it and stuff like that. Loner you can just find on my YouTube channel. It's just Ron Placone. And if you go to my YouTube channel, Loner pretty much pops up immediately. That was a pilot that I made. Basically, a guy goes through the pandemic with the knowledge that he could have been a millionaire because his ex-girlfriend invented Zoom. We call it Vroom. It's in a fictional world. So it's basically like just sort of like it's sort of like just like sort of mental gymnastic comedy. Like this guy is just going through his life and realizing all the opportunities he passed up and realizing he could be a millionaire and blah blah blah. So we only did the first episode. I was hoping we'd get to do the entire series, but we didn't get to. So it just basically lives online as a short film, more or less. But it's a fun one, so you can check that out there. So that was all sort of like setting the table to do a proper movie, which is Left at Wall. I wrote Left at Wall in 2021. It is loosely inspired by the GameStop incident that happened.
Okay.
Our story is completely fictional, but we use the whole GameStop thing as a way to explain how the Wall Street machine works and how something like that could happen. And our premise is there's two feuding brothers, and one of the brothers is a big Wall Street hotshot, and the other brother is a struggling writer in Hollywood. And the writer brother finds out about this short sell attempt, and so he cooks up this big scheme to like thwart their short sell attempt. And chaos ensues. So it's loosely inspired by that event, but the story is completely fictional. Like instead of calling it GameStop, we call it Game Bites, and instead of having Reddit, we have Red Room. So it's a fictional world, but we nod to the GameStop thing. We nod to the pandemic. So that's all in there. And yeah, I mean, I got the idea shortly after the GameStop thing happened. Started writing the script, and our first trailer was out by August of 2021, and I just financed that myself. But then it just took a long time to get everything together, get the team together, get the financing together, start making this freaking movie. So, it was out, it was pretty much finished by the end of 2023. And then in 2024, we did the festival circuit and we did some screenings in different cities, including London and Los Angeles. And then, it was officially released digitally in 2025. And you can catch it on Apple TV and you can catch it on YouTube Movies and Google Play and Xbox. And it's on Amazon Prime. So it's out there. I mean, basically, if you just type Left It Wall into your smart TV, it should pop up different ways you can rent it or buy it. And, you can also go to my website where it just lists all the platforms that it's on. And that's just ronplacone.com.
Okay, great. Well, do you have any? Where are you on social media? Like, are you
Yeah,
on
I'm
Instagram and?
on yeah, I'm at Ron Placone on pretty much everything. I'm at Ron Placone on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky, Ron Placone. I am still on Twitter. If people are still using Twitter, I try to avoid it, but I am still there because I know some people are still on there. And I'm on TikTok, Ron Placone, Substack, Ron Placone. Yeah, I'm just Ron Placone on all the platforms. That's the one. It's an advantage of having like a kind of obscure Italian last name. It's you can kind of just get your name on all the platforms, which is nice. And then ronplacone.com is my website. The movie is called Left It Wall. You can just get it wherever you get your movies. My podcast is called 1000 with Ron Placone. And yeah, I am out there.
Excellent. Everyone needs to go see the movie.
Check it
So
out.
check it out. I do appreciate you agreeing to this interview. It will be out in print on June 1st, and then on audio shortly thereafter. And
Cool.
I'll make sure and give you links, and I'll send you a free copy if you want.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. I look forward to it. And yeah, let me know. Keep me posted when it's out, and I'll promote it on my end. And yeah, thanks for
Very
doing
cool.
this.
Oh, and it would be all right to send me some photographs, like promo materials, maybe a picture of the movie poster, etc.
Yeah, totally. You just want me to email that to you?
Yeah, like 5 or so pictures.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'll send you some stuff. Yeah, that's no problem at all.
All right, I've enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, you too, man. I'm glad everything's going well for you. So you're out by Asheville?
I'm 5 hours east in Greenville, North Carolina, but I'm from Asheville.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're from it. Okay.
I was just
Okay,
bringing up
cool.
Asheville because RFK has that kind of crunchy, but not that like kind of privileged vibe, which is where I'm from. I'm making
Yeah,
fun of the
yeah,
place
he's
I'm from.
somehow he's somehow able to play that fiddle and people are falling for it. It's so fucking weird. It's so I mean it's like a new agey hippie should want nothing to do with that fucking guy.
Right.
But for whatever reason like people are falling for it and it's bizarre. I mean I almost in some ways I dislike him the most. Like I think he is just so despicable and what he believes is just so fucking twisted. And what few good idea well, I wouldn't even say good ideas, but people give him credit for the brilliant observation that hey, our food's not healthy. Um which yeah, no shit, dude.
Yeah, but then
But
his
like
suggestions make
his
it worse. You put beef
yeah,
fat and
isn't it
everything.
yeah, like, oh, let's just fry our fries in beef tallow and that'll
Just
solve it. Like you're a
the
fucking moron.
like pure
Um,
saturated fat. But
yeah.
he's such
Yeah,
a moron.
it's fucking rough, dude. I mean, yeah,
That's where
it's
being
it's
spoiled will go.
yeah.
He's like the ultimate example of being spoiled.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, every story he tells, like the big theme of it is like, hey, I've never had to have a consequence in my life. So, that's how I live. But
Yeah,
well, cool, dude. Well, I appreciate you doing this and yeah, anything else, I'll send you some photos here once we hop off and anything else you need, just let me know.
for sure. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Be
All
well.
right. Bye bye.
All right. Peace.